Thank you so much for the nice introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Maximiliane, and I'm very excited to present our paper on privacy communication patterns for domestic robots. I did this work together with my co-authors Jan Leusmann, Albrecht Schmidt, Sebastian Feger, and Sven. So smart assistants have long become an important part of many homes. They make life more enjoyable by providing entertainment, and they can support us with daily chores. Today, most of these devices are either placed in a dedicated area, such as smart speakers, or they have minimal interaction capabilities, such as robot vacuum cleaners. However, through advancements in AI and robotics, we see a trend away from the single-purpose devices towards general-purpose robots. This means we have more sensors and capabilities bundled into one device, which is amazing because it makes life even more enjoyable and more convenient, as they can now take over tasks such as folding laundry or like cleaning bathrooms. However, such capable robots also introduce a novel range of privacy threats and risks to users. And this is especially true for humanoid robots, and this has two main reasons. So for one, their appearance makes humans trust in the robot, so they tend to share feelings and sensitive information with them. And on the other hand, as soon as a feature in a robot looks humanoid, so for example, if a robot has eyes, humans also expect it to work like human eyes. So they expect it to be only able to see what's in front of them. However, robots barely use traditional cameras, but use other technologies like radio frequency sensing that is indeed able to penetrate walls and even solid objects, but humans tend to underestimate those capabilities. As a result, prior work demanded that robots should continuously communicate their current state. So for example, they should show if they're currently filming or listening or sending data. However, we currently do not really have work on that topic. And so we approached this through the following three research questions. So we first looked at how do privacy concerns change when we have increasing locomotion and interaction capabilities in smart assistants. Then we looked at which patterns such domestic robots could employ to communicate their privacy-relevant functionalities to users. And finally, we looked at which of those communication patterns perform best regarding trust, privacy, understandability, several notification qualities, and general user preference. We approached these three research questions through three studies. The first one was an online survey on privacy concerns. We then did 3 focus groups with a total of 22 participants on the communication patterns. And finally, we did a large-scale online survey to investigate those communication patterns. So let's first look at the first study. So as I just said, we did an online survey on Prolific with 90 participants, and we investigated 3 different interaction and 4 locomotion levels. And down there, you see examples of those different capabilities. So we, in terms of interaction capabilities, investigated passive, limited, and full. Passive means basically no interaction capabilities, so for example, like a smart speaker or smart display. Limited means limited interaction capabilities, like the Amazon Astro, it's the third robot here. It can tilt its sensors and its display toward the user. And full interaction capabilities would be the Boston Dynamics robot on the far right corner, which has grippers and arms and can really physically manipulate the environment. And then we investigated 4 locomotion capabilities. So stationary means no movement. Linear means movement across a defined path. So for example, like a manufacturing arm in a construction hall or something like that. Planar movement means that the robot can move across even surfaces. And world movements means the robot can move exactly like a human could. So it can even climb stairs and ladders and stuff like that. We did it within subjects design, which means that every participant rated all 12 combinations. And yeah, we found that indeed the more capable a robot is, the more people are concerned about it. But we did not only look at these numbers, but we only asked for the reasons for these concerns. And we found concerns that were rooted in the interaction capabilities. And here participants, for example, said regarding the robot that did not have any interaction capabilities, that they don't feel very much concerned about their privacy because they have full control on what it sees. So for example, they can place it in an environment where they're not concerned, and then they know where it's facing or looking at, which doesn't lead to any concerns. In regards to the robot that has full interaction capabilities, so grippers to open drawers and cabinets and stuff like that, people were concerned that it could open doors and enter areas and times where they didn't want it to. And then we also had concerns that were rooted in the locomotion capabilities. And here people said towards the robot that could only do planar movements that they wouldn't feel that concerned because if they would feel concerned, they could just move to a different floor or place the robot in an area where they would not feel that concerned about their privacy. However, in regards to the world movement robot, people were concerned that it might just pop up in situations where they wouldn't want it to. So here one participant said, it's hard to avoid it popping up unexpectedly, isn't it? And then we also had concerns that were not rooted in interaction and locomotion, but just in the general capabilities of the robot. And here people mentioned kind of traditional concerns, which we already know from the smart home environment. So those mainly concerned the camera, the microphone, and the internet connectivity. So people were concerned that it might always listen, that it might watch them and record footage, and that it might send such sensitive information out to remote servers or third parties. Okay, let's move on to our second study. So to investigate communication patterns, we did 3 focus groups with a total of 22 participants. And the main task here was to develop communication patterns for internet connectivity, camera, and microphone. So we had to limit this investigation somehow. So we focused this on the 3 most frequently mentioned concerns. But for future work, it would be interesting to also investigate more capabilities. But for the study, we limited it to these 3 concerns. A focus group took on average 2 hours, and we spent a great deal of time on thoroughly introducing the topic, since many participants were not familiar with capable robots. So we had examples from different robots in the room and let people interact with them, showed their capabilities, their interaction locomotion capabilities. And we also thoroughly introduced communication patterns so that people knew what we were talking about. And for that, we brought current mechanisms like camera shutters, light feedback, buttons, and we contrasted that with the way humans would communicate a privacy-relevant state. So as you can see in this picture, for example, covering the eyes to communicate that you're not watching. We wanted to spark people's creativity and not limit them towards what's currently possible or out there, but like get new and novel ideas. So in total, we found 86 different communication patterns, and I only put like 4 examples here, but please refer to our paper for the full set of patterns. So for example, the robot could face the wall to signal that the camera is off. It could also play distinct audio feedback to signal that it is disconnected from the internet. It could physically remove the microphone's cable to prevent audio recordings, or it could enter a physical confinement to block all functionality. What people meant by that is some sort of box that would block out all microphones, camera, and internet signals so that the robot is really closed up from the environment. We can divide those patterns into awareness mechanisms, so mechanisms that mainly communicate the state of the different sensors, and interventions that really block a functionality from working. People also discussed these communication patterns. So we had group discussions after the sessions, and here people brought up the topic of trust. And people said that the more capable a robot is, the more limitations they want for it. So one participant said, I think that even self-destruct is very useful. When your robot has so many capabilities, you also need very strong limitations. And one person even suggested putting a lock on the outside of a box. So when the robot goes in the box, putting a lock there so the robot cannot free itself. In terms of usability, people discussed what patterns they would like the robot to use. And participants, for example, also suggested to send the robot simply out of the room, since it now has legs and it can move. So just say, hey, go away. However, that of course doesn't work if the robot is currently doing a task and you want its capabilities. Regarding the humanoid gesture, so for example, covering the eyes, one participant said it is fun, like it's something that is trying to mimic me, but it's not me. And interestingly, we had like a different opinion on that in our anthropomorphism discussions, or humanoid versus non-humanoid gestures. And here one person said, if a robot is covering its eyes, I would be like, what's wrong with you? Just turn off your camera, dude. So this person felt like it would be really strange for a robot to cover its eyes instead of really turning off the camera. Understandable, probably. And in general, people said, the more a robot looks like a human, the more they're also expected to have really strong capabilities. Okay, let's move on to our final study. So finally, we wanted to investigate how those patterns were perceived by participants. So we did a second online large-scale survey on Prolific with a total of 1,720 participants. And we had 20 ratings per communication patterns. It was a between subjects design. And we asked for perceived privacy protection, trust, effectiveness, intrusiveness, noticeability, understandability, how disturbing the pattern was perceived, and general user preference. We performed hierarchical clustering and principal component analysis to make sense of our data. And in the left plot, you see that most patterns were around a big cluster and that we have 2 outlier clusters. And we visualized those outlier clusters in the parallel coordinates plot, and we found that those were the patterns that performed worst across the different dimensions, and I put a couple of examples here. So for example, patterns that didn't perform well was the robot covers its ears with its hands to prevent audio recordings, the robot faces the wall to prevent audio recordings, the robot parking against a pillow to prevent audio recordings, and the domestic robot killing itself. And we found that these patterns that didn't score well were either patterns that weren't very convincing and really blocking a sensor, such as parking against a pillow to interfere with the microphone state, or to the disconnect between the action and the targeted capability, such as facing a wall to signal microphone states. Finally, the robot covering its ears might have been perceived as deceptive, as shown in the previous quote, and the robot killing itself scored low overall because of its extremely disturbing nature, which you can see here. In contrast, here you can see the patterns that perform best. Also put examples here, so the robot detaching its memory card to prevent functionality, the robot putting a physical cover over its camera, the robot going to its docking station, the robot detaching its microphone. So here we can see that the best performing patterns are either familiar patterns from current smart devices or actions a human would do but applied to a robot. So for example, detaching the memory card, stuff like that. Okay, so the key takeaways are that familiarity fosters understandability, trust, and general user preference, and we see that such familiarity can stem from smart devices already having similar mechanism integrated or from applying knowledge and actions from daily life to the novel robotic space. And while humanoid shapes and behaviors foster understandability through intuitiveness and familiarity, they can also evoke feelings of unease and even creepiness, so we suggest to employ them carefully and to align them with the specific situation. And lastly, choosing the right communication patterns does not follow a simple one-size-fits-all approach. In contrast, which communication pattern is best depends on the specific requirements of a situation. And to support researchers and developers in choosing communication patterns that match the situation, we developed this interactive web application where you can filter the different dimensions and get a set of patterns returned. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm now happy to answer questions.